Here we have a payroll worksheet brought to me by a CPA, my brother. He configures payroll, but right now he doesn't have many employees. He's actually spending most of his time helping companies incorporate. So with 7 employees, he decided he didn't want to rent the more expensive wage programs, and so he started his own worksheet. Well, it's worked nice for him, except there's a lot of problems when he gets to figuring out the federal income tax withholding and the state income tax withholding. Let's take a quick look. He says when he does the federal, he comes and uses these tax tables on the next page. Well, they look fairly similar to what we've seen before. We can probably handle those. With a VLOOKUP, what if they had $2,000 of gross pay? Well, the way they would use these tables is come down here with the VLOOKUP, hit something that's greater than 2,000, back up 1, and come over and take this amount here. So their base is $178.40. But the federal government makes it a little bit tougher than that. You also have to pick out this amount and this amount, because you'll pay 25% of the difference between 2,000 and the initial value here of 1,502. So you have to look up all 3 values and then figure out what they will pay. And that's if they're single. If they're married, you'll use this other table. But that's doable. We still can use VLOOKUP, and it works very well. So coming back over here, you can see I click on this, and this is what it looks like. Well, it's a Megaformula, but it works, and it works very well. Okay, so that's tough. Let's take a look at the state formula. And we come over here, and that's even bigger, you'll notice. Okay, wow. So there's a lot. But having these Megaformulas make it so much easier for him, because he was looking through pages and pages and pages of tax folder information in order to see which amount he should pull out and withhold, both in the federal and the state. Now it's very easily he copies these formulas down. Let's create our own state income tax withholding. So we'll come here, we're going to create this formula. Notice we have a couple of tables down here given to us by the state telling us how to approach it. We look at the 2 tables and tell me what the differences are. Yeah, there's only 2 differences. A base allowance of 10 versus 16 if they're single or married, and whether we subtract $500 or $750. So rather than say if they're single and then do a whole set of formulas to figure out the single withholding, and then another whole set of formulas to do the married withholding, let's just do them together, and when we reach these points, then we'll make the difference there. Okay, these tables don't exactly line up very well, so I'm going to come over here and just put 1, 2, 3, and we'll copy this on down till we get 10 of them, and that will correspond to these lines here. Now, in column P, we'll put in what we need. Before I do that, let me show you one thing that my brother did. He has these numbers up here. As you can see, instead of a number, if I hover over it, it says this number cell is formatted as text or preceded by an apostrophe. Yeah, this is really a text number here, so we really don't want to do that. Let's turn it into a number first. I can say convert to a number here. Okay, well, let's see if I do all of these and say the same thing, convert to number. Well, they may be numbers, but they sure look like text. Maybe we better check this out. So we'll right-click and format cells, and I can see that they're general, but the alignment is left. That's why. So we'll just say general on it as well and say OK. Now those look like numbers. From now on, I'll encourage him to put them in just as numbers. We could have handled this over in the formulas, but it's a lot nicer just to have them numbers to begin with. Okay, so we've corrected that. Now let's get started. Okay, let's start up here. Line 1, Utah taxable wages. Well, that's going to be for employee 1. We'll just work with line 5, employee 1. That'll be equal to this. So I'll say equals gross pay. And we're going to make each input cell absolute column. So then we can use that later on as long as they're in those columns. Okay, we've got the right amount. Second one says multiply line 1 by 0.05. So equals line 1 times 0.05. Okay. A third one, number of withholding allowances. Well, what's that? That's this dependence up here. So I'll make that absolute C. And 4 is multiply line 3 by $5. So equals the above one times 5. Wow, we're going through this fast. We're already 4 out of 10, 40% through. 5, the base allowance. Oh, here we have a little bit more complication. We've got to see if they're single or married. So I'll say equals if and single. So that's in B5, absolute B, equals S. Now, capital or small? That's right, it doesn't matter here. It does matter in the find function, but in most places in Excel, it doesn't make any difference. So I'll put a small one. So if they're single, I want to use 10. Otherwise, I want to use 16. Okay, 6, add lines 4 and 5. So equals 4 plus 5. Okay, 7. Line 1 less 500. Oh, but that's if they're single. 750 if they're married. So I'll say equals line 1 minus, and then we need an if statement. Again, if what? If B5, absolute B, equals, and this time I'll use a capital S. Then I want to have 500. Otherwise, I want to use 750. Oh, but you say we missed something there. It says not less than 0. What if they had only earned $500 when we subtracted 750 from it? We'd get negative numbers. We don't want that, so how do we handle that? This is the big difference between the way we're going to work this and how I worked it before. Before I used the if statement, the most common way, and did if and put the whole equation in there, is less than 0, then 0. Otherwise, use the full equation. So the equation's in there twice. But there's a much more efficient way we can do that, and it is using the max function. So let's come up here, and at the beginning I'll put in max of 0 or, comma, whatever the formula is, and close it off. Now, if it's less than 0, it will use 0. Otherwise, it will use this function here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's move to the next one. 8, multiply line 7 by 0.013. So equals line 7 times 0.013. Okay. 9, line 6 less line 8, not less than 0. So we know that needs a max, equals max of 0 or, and it's line 6 minus line 8. Okay, we're at the last one. Withholding tax equals line 2 less line 9 but not less than 0. So equals max of 0 or line 2 less line 9. Oh, that's a very good sign. Notice 49.793. Earlier we got 49.79. So if I just format the cell to only show cents, I've got the exact number. Is that all right to do? Actually, it isn't. You're setting yourself up to run into problems in the future. That 1/3 of a cent, if I keep adding it in for each of the employees or each of the payroll periods, when I get done and turn in my quarterly and annual reports to the federal government and state government, I'm going to be off by a few pennies. It's not going to be much, granted, but still it is not correct. We need to have it down to the cent. So what can we do? Yeah, we'll use the round right here so that then we're exactly right to the penny. Round, and I'll put comma 2 to the penny, 2 decimals, enter. Now we're right down to the penny. I think we have a mega formula that works. Oh, you say it's not a mega formula yet. You're right. We've got to turn it into one. Well, I don't want to lose all these in-between steps, so I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it here next to it. Then we'll work out of one of these and let the other one stay around so that we can use it later. What I'll do is I'll just start here and make sure I only have input cells for every one of these formulas until I get down to the end. So I look at 1. It's J5, it's input. But this one says take Q24. So I need to go back to Q24 here, copy its formula, except for the equal, escape, and then do a double click and replace. Control V, enter. It stayed the same and the bottom number stayed the same, so we're in good shape so far. And no other cells that are not input cells. Okay, next one, C5, that's an input. Q26 times 5, so go back to 26, copy that formula, and now replace it here. Control V, enter. Okay, so that's okay, and the numbers all add up, still 49.79. So I go to the next one, B5. Well, that's an input value, so I'm okay. Go to the next one, Q27 and Q28. Okay, I'm on 29, so I need to go to 27 and pick up its formula. Copy everything except the equal, Control C, escape, and we'll come down here, 27, enter. Good, they all remain the same. Now I need to go to Q28, so I'll come up here, copy everything except the equal, Control C, escape, and back and do a double click, Control V, enter. Wow, okay, that isn't so bad. This becomes very mechanical after a while. We can easily do this. Not a lot of thought, okay? So we say, well, that's all input cells. That's all we need to think about, and that we add the formula in the right way. So I go to the next one, Q24. Okay, what's Q24? Let's see. That's this first one. So I'll copy its formula, Control C, escape, and we'll replace Q24. Is that all of them? I double check and nothing else. Okay, next one, Q30. Well, that's the previous cell, so I'll come up here and copy its formula. And we'll paste it where it says Q30. Now again, I may need to use parens, except this is all within one formula, so I won't need to in this case. And when I hit enter, I can see everything else remains correct. Okay, now we're fine there, so let's go back. Q29 minus Q31. Okay, Q29 would be this one. And we'll enter that. Stayed the same. And now I need Q31. That's the one above. And it looks like I won't need parens on this either. Okay, for the minus that we have here. So put that in. And we get the same amounts. Everything is input cells now. So I go to the last one. Q25. What's Q25? It's 26, so Q25. I'll come down here and replace it. Good, got the same thing. Minus Q32. Well, that's the previous one. So I'll copy that formula. Undo paste. Wow, I ended up with the same amount. And if I look through here, I only see input cells. Okay, well, the real proof is if I delete these and we still get the same thing. That worked. Okay, so now we need to put it up on line 5. Let me do it wrong first of all and just observe me. A lot of people, they'll just do a copy. They'll come up here and do a paste. And it didn't work. What's going on? In fact, if I look at the formulas, I'm seeing all these pound references. It's having a hard time finding the right cells. What happened? That's right. Here, we're on, what, line 33. The employee's on line 5. We subtract, that's like, 27 cells up that it's looking, or 28, somewhere in that order. Oh, so what it's doing here is it's trying to go up that many cells, and it's going off the spreadsheet and says, sorry, I can't find that cell. So we can't do it that way. So let's come back down here, and instead of copying the cell, I'm going to copy the formula. Control-C, escape, and up here, I'll replace that with this formula. Hit enter, and now I've got it right for this. And if I copy the formula down, oh, much better. Let's turn that into dollar signs. Remember, Control-Shift $. Did that. Okay, that's looking really good. They all seem to be matching up. But notice how small this one is compared to, remember this one over here? That we even had to keep scrolling down? Yeah, a lot of difference in size. What's the difference? I used the max instead of the if statement. Oh, much more efficient. Okay, what else could we do to make this easier so he doesn't make mistakes even if it's on a different worksheet? Yes, we can name the formula. Okay, so I've got the formula up here, all on the same row, row 5, and I'm going to copy it. Now I'll come up to define name, and let's call this state withholding. All one word, and I'm going to paste the formula in down here. Enter. Now let's see if it works. So if I say equals state withholding, enter, I get it and copy it down. They all seem to be there. I'll format them as dollar signs and we're good to go. Much easier than trying to remember and copy formulas. Just say equals state withholding. Oh, and so much easier than looking up on all those different sheets of lookup tables. Well, I think we've done a good job. Play with it, enjoy the Megaformulas. People will think you're remarkable for the ability that you have.